This is episode 196 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 196 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today, I have Cory Matthews on the show. Cory is a realtor and an investor living in the St. Catharines, Niagara area. Today, he came on the show to talk about a slightly different approach to investing. So Cory really likes to keep a lot of equity in his projects. He likes to move very methodically through his real estate investing strategy. Today, he talked about how he's been able to secure deals and work through these deals to get a really value-based renovation done, build a lot of equity into the deal, and build $1,000+ of cash flow into pretty much every deal in his portfolio, some with much, much more than that. One of the big takeaways from this episode is it's not really the number of doors. So many people talk about number of doors, but you might have a number of doors that are all not cash flowing. There's a lot of flexing going on in the real estate investing industry. So it's kind of refreshing to see somebody who isn't worried about acquiring the most number of doors and really just making sure that every last deal counts. That's a big takeaway from this episode. Really enjoyed the conversation. Cory seems to be a real straight shooter and great talking with him. So as always, if you're enjoying the show, I ask you to please leave us a positive review. A 5-star rating would be greatly appreciated. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell if you haven't already done so. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of the episode. It just helps more people find the show, helps it get it out there. Now, without further ado, let's jump into episode 196. Wow, 196, almost at 200 with Cory Matthews. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I've got Cory Matthews on the show today. Cory, thanks for coming over.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to the chat. So you came to the golf tournament. I know we had a couple of exchanges on Instagram. I think we chatted once on the phone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I chatted about U.S. real estate.
Yeah, we chatted. So it's all coming back to me. I was looking up. I looked up your name, saw that it's the same as the character from Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
And
get that all the time.
And then I did some further digging and found our Instagram conversation.
Yeah.
And here we are. So if you don't mind, just give me a little bit of a summary of what it is you do in real estate investing and what you do for an occupation, all that stuff.
Yeah. So we've been investing in real estate. My wife and I have been investing in real estate for a little over 10 years. It's actually why I got into real estate. So I'm a real estate agent and I do some construction, management, and general contracting.
Okay.
So I kind of fell into it because when I was 22, I wanted to buy real estate myself, and I went to an agent, and nobody wanted to help me because I was this like young green kid who knew nothing, right? Just had a little bit of money to invest. So I figured the best way to learn is to just become an agent and teach myself, and then be that person for other people looking to get into the industry.
Okay, yeah, it's funny. I just had Erwin on. It's a similar story. Like his was just like, well, he felt like he was getting bad advice, and you're paying so much in realtor commissions. It's like, well, I guess I should just start being a realtor.
Well, and a lot of realtors aren't focused on investors, right? Like now there are more of them, but when I was doing that 10 years ago, it's like, aside from like invest in a condo, get negative cash flow, and hope for appreciation. There's not a lot of people telling you like, hey, this is a strategy.
Well, you're not going to find a whole lot of realtors that say, no, I don't do investments. They'll be like, oh yeah, we do that too. Yeah. But do you really?
Yeah, right. And do you know how to run a pro forma? Do you know how to run like the proper budgets and stuff like that?
Yeah, if your head's not in it, it's just not going to work the same. Like you're going to find rarely will they say, no, I don't. But
yeah, exactly.
There's the conflict of interest with realtors where like anything that means they will for sure not get a commission, they probably won't say.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying all, but
right.
that is common.
I did a bit of that actually in the last little bit here, against the advice of some other people, was saying like your job's to sell, right? Your job's to get people in homes. And I didn't really think it was the right market environment for some of my clients. And I said, it's best for you to hold off because I saw a lot of the stuff that was coming down the pipeline coming with like high inflation and stuff like that. So I thought interest rates were going to be rising and prices would start to come down. Mm-hmm. And I mean, fortunately and unfortunately for some people, like they did. So I don't know. For me, it's like I'd rather make less money but have like a good conscience at the end of the day and be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, for sure. Like the economy and kind of where things are going is definitely a topic open for discussion because there's a lot of impacting factors. And I think we've talked about this before, just like kind of the things that affect our current situation and where we're headed. Man, there's so many variables. It's hard to know where we land.
Yeah. I remember I had a conversation. I think I had a conversation with you in January saying like, talking about the U.S. market, because when I was looking at stuff in Canada and like I went to Thunder Bay. I went to Sault Ste. Marie. Like I flew up there, took a look at properties up there,
Mm-hmm.
and still just to try to find deals, right? Because I'm hungry. I want to buy the next thing, but when the numbers don't make sense, you just can't buy it.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Yeah,
So.
and we'll crunch a couple numbers on the podcast today and just kind of like look at what's cash on cash returns now and what like when you factor like no appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, you could even go negative.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I'm actually going to be losing on the value I pay.
Yeah.
And hopefully making it up on my pay down and on my cash flow.
Yeah.
It's possible because we don't know where the bottom is. As long as they keep raising interest rates, it's going to keep artificially restricting demand.
Yeah, and there's a level of opportunity cost too, right? Like you could get in it today, right? And in the long term, yeah, you're going to be fine. Like we're talking like 15 years. Yeah, your investment's going to be worth more than what you paid today, even if it does go down a bit. But it's like you're waiting 15 years. So is there another investment that you could put your money into? It's going to make you a better return, right?
And well, I mean, we haven't really gotten to fully your story yet, but what are your thoughts on that? Like what are you thinking? Like, what is the alternative? Because I look at it and I'm like, from a cash on cash standpoint, some of these investments, and they have been for quite some time because cash flow hasn't been there, but people were banking on inflation and they were okay appreciation and they were okay with the lower cash flow. Yeah. Now it's like you no longer have the appreciation element for now. Yeah. And you have the low cash on cash. Like Erwin was talking about doing energy stocks that get like 6% plus dividends. Yeah. That's better than people are making on their cash on cash in real estate.
Well, exactly. Right. I mean, and the thing is too, so with real estate, you got to be careful. I think a lot of people kind of forget about this, but like the leverage aspect of it, the leverage aspect of it is generally why you were able to make 20 plus 30% returns when even higher when things were appreciating. But like when I ran my numbers in my metrics, I run a 2% appreciation model.
I always have too.
And then I look at that and go, it has to cash flow, right? So all my properties have to cash flow at least $500 to $1,000. And then what that does is now I'm not concerned right now with, I can weather this storm because even if interest rates do go up, like when I locked all mine in it too. So like,
same last year. I locked in a bunch.
Oh yeah. Like I wasn't taking any chances. And the thing is too, it's like when you can get money under 2%, even under 3%, like you should be locking that in. Cause I mean, you're just splitting hairs. After that,
I'm with you with that. Like 2021, I saw it. I'm like, man, we're like low twos. Yeah, exactly. How can you do that much better? I can get close to 2 on 1, like 2.25. If you're thinking that maybe fixed rates are going to go down to 1.5 and you want to take the variable, I just couldn't understand that at that time. The only reason I will say variable makes sense and still does is if you need flexibility to exit, right?
Yeah. So I made that mistake. So I was on a flip. I did a flip in Niagara Falls, and I thought, oh well, lock in a good rate. But because I didn't know whether I was going to do a flip or not, or whether I was going to keep it. And a better opportunity came up after we were done finishing it. And it didn't really make sense to rent it, so we sold it. And I couldn't port it properly without, so I ended up having to pay the
interest rate differential.
Yeah, well, luckily the mortgage,
much was it?
I was like $4,000 or $5,000.
I've had to pay it a couple times, and it's like that. It wasn't big
because we're talking about small mortgages.
And it's based on how much posted rate changed from the bank's perspective. So the day you got your mortgage to now, like if posted rate on the bank, if they it's not the rate they gave you, but if they had a posted rate of 4.79 and you got a 3% rate because you get a discount, now their posted rate is 4.69, then you're going to pay 0.1% for the remainder of your term, which. Where it really gets sticky is where people get hit with 0.5% for like 3 years, and then it hurts, and you don't want to end up there. So that's why anyone, I say, if you're not willing to stick in that investment, that's the bigger determining factor. Yeah, because if you go fixed and rates drop, then you're just paying a lot of money.
Yeah, well, and so I mean, I can go into my investment philosophy a little bit here, but one of the two of the main mentors. So I had a guy named James Roy, who was teaching me when I was selling apartment buildings. So I started my career selling apartment buildings.
As a realtor,
As a realtor.
Real estate values and interest rates are changing quickly, and huge opportunities are opening up in the marketplace. But to take advantage of those opportunities, you're going to need real estate experts on your team. That's why I've brought my first sponsor on the show, Jacob Campanero with Royal LePage Signature. Jacob is an expert commercial multifamily realtor, and he's also the resident realtor on my new deal analysis show, REI Hot Seat, which is available on YouTube. If you're looking to add a quality piece to your real estate power team, Jacob and his team are there to help. To book a consultation with a member of his team, fill out the form available through the link in the show notes on this episode, and a member of his team will be in touch. Now let's get back to the episode.
And one of the things he wanted me to do is he's like, don't spend basically the first year was like, don't sell, get into rooms with people and just talk with them. Like kind of like we're chatting. So I went into some of the like rooms of some of the wealthiest owners that own the biggest apartment buildings in Toronto and just chatted with them to figure out like, what's your strategy? Like, what do you do? Like, I'm a young guy. I want to get into investing in this stuff. Like, what do you do? And one of the best ones I heard was just buy and never sell. Like, if you can buy something and hold it and never sell it, that's how you're going to build massive, massive wealth, right? Because on either side of a transaction, you're going to pay fees and stuff like that.
Huge
too,
fees. Right? Well, the buy and never sell thing, of course, that wisdom works. The challenge people have is being able to weather that storm. Like, can I see myself at this property for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Or is there something going to come up if rents go down? You know what I mean? Like a lot of these guys, like they have enough of a buffer of cash flow. Even if their rents go down, even if their values go down, they don't care. So I think a lot of people early on have that struggle of, are they willing to?
Well, and the other thing too is like we've been fortunate enough to like we just grinded so hard to get our down payments. Like we didn't refinance a lot along the way, so we've kept our loan to values low. So we've been able to hold through this. And then in like 2025, 2026, when our fixed rates come back up, we're gonna have another buying opportunity because we're gonna refi at hopefully what I think is gonna happen is I think rates are gonna go up. They're gonna peak somewhere around like 7-8% depending on where we end up here. And then they're going to start trending back down, right? Because they're going to have to, because we're going to be in like a massive recession,
massive
right?
recession. I mean, we were in a recession with basically zero interest rates. We're heading into one. So, no question that the recession's here. It's will they respond to that? But I think one of the bigger problems, and I don't know how many they've bought or what they're selling, like the quantitative tightening, like selling off the bonds. So all the Fed-owned bonds in the States and the government-owned bonds here, where they bought up their own bonds, now they're selling them back into the market, driving the prices down, which is driving the yield up, which is why our fixed rates are all high. Because banks always look at what's bond yield versus mortgage rates, and they want a spread. So if they're going to invest in mortgages, they need to be compensated for the risk over bond rate. So,
well, that was the other interesting part too. Like when we started seeing that, I knew we were going to be in for some rising interest rates. When I started seeing the banks have a nice spread, like normally it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but normally between variable and fixed, it should be like about a 1% like spread generally. And it's been like it's been creeping up higher and higher.
So for some reason, I mean, this is just how they do it. Those aren't actually directly linked. The spread is off the bond rate. So for the variable rate, the prime rate is based on the overnight lending rate that the Bank of Canada publishes. That's the one they're increasing. Every time you hear that they increased it, that's based on that. The fixed rates, they fluctuate all the time.
But it seemed like they were almost encouraging people, because it's like when you go to the bank and you have your options, you can get a 1.5 variable or like a 3.5 fixed. You're obviously going to be incentivized to go variable, which in the long term
hurts.
But in the long term, if you think about it from a bank's perspective, that actually might have been a really strategic play, because everybody's going to go for the variable. And I'm not saying they did this on purpose, but it seems,
So, and I'm sure indirectly those two do influence each other. So the bond rate is so market driven, although with the government manipulating it with quantitative easing and now quantitative tightening when they're selling off all those bonds and driving up the yields. One way or another, it has the same impact. Money got a lot more expensive for people. And by doing the tightening, obviously they had the intent of driving up interest rates, just like they do with lifting the overnight rate.
100%. Well, and it seemed like in January the writing was on the wall. Like when I was getting those, because I was getting into stock trading a bit too, because it's like when you can't invest in real estate, you got to look for another avenue. So I was starting to look at different avenues,
stock investing is scary right now too.
Well, no, exactly. Right? So I was looking there, but I was mostly just doing research. And one of the things I was looking at was inflation numbers. And then also the other thing I was looking at was like, I just felt like the market was high, especially based on what we paid for our properties. And then 3 to 5 years later, what they're going for now, it's like, this seems like, we timed it pretty good, but at the same time, it's like this isn't sustainable. Like it doesn't make sense for a property to go up $100,000 a year in a market where people don't barely make $100,000 a year.
That never made that never made any sense.
So then, so when we started seeing inflation numbers as high as they were, I was like, well, the government has to raise interest rates. And then they came out, I think the first couple of weeks, and they're like, oh, we're not going to raise interest rates. Like,
they said not until 2023.
It's like, I don't think because I don't, and the other thing too is I don't think people understand how how much worse almost inflation is than high interest rates, right? Because people are thinking personally from themselves, like, oh yeah, high interest rates would hurt me.
Mhm.
This sucks. But if you think about somebody like a fixed income, somebody on like a retiree on a fixed income salary, inflation is way worse than interest rates, right?
I think they're both horrendous.
Well, they're both both not great. But
I find it so humorous and in a sad way. Back when the lockdown started, oh, here's your CERB, here's your credit, and we're going to shut down new businesses, but we're going to give you a line of credit that you can use, low interest rate.
To basically just go into debt.
Yeah, you can go into a bunch of debt, and we care so much about all you. We just want to make sure you're taken care of too. Like now, they couldn't care less. Like, no, surprise, inflation's
that debt we
huge.
gave you is due.
And by the way, 8%, fellas.
Yeah, no, exactly right.
It's just absurd, all of it. But you know what? Like, I have this conversation, and we'll have this fairly often. Ultimately, it's got to be like, what do we do about all that? Like, how do we adjust our strategy, knowing that it's you're trying to predict the unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a way, you can predict that they'll do something crazy because that much has been consistent. Something that's illogical, like I was just saying on the last podcast, back on I think it was episode 63, I ran through this whole scenario like April 2020. I'm like, these lockdowns don't make sense. Here's why. And ran through all the possibilities. And my point with all that is, if I could come to that conclusion, how is it that all these high paid, economists and people employed by our government couldn't?
I think there's like a lot of fear too, right? Like everybody was fearful, and
bureaucracy too.
And that it messes up your mind, right? Like when
true.
I remember like the first week or whatever, we were like sanitizing our apples with like lights.
I think we wiped boxes down too. Yeah.
And then
didn't last long.
And then later you're like,
why did we do that?
Why was I doing that? Right. But it's easy to say that once you get more information too, right? It's one of those things that's tough, right? So.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. So for you, what are you looking at when you look at this market? Well, first off, before we even go into there, like what's your portfolio look like right now, high level?
So I mean, we have a mixture of duplexes and triplexes. We don't have anything crazy. We have 5 properties right now. We had 6. We sold one in March because I remember like my wife and I were in Florida, and we were looking, like I was sitting on the bed looking at the sales, and we're like, we're gonna sell one of these because if we can get this price,
that's so perfect.
Sense,
that was
right?
like the absolute top of the market.
Yeah, and
like right before the first interest rate hike or at the first hike?
Right after. Yeah, like literally I listed a client's place first because I didn't want my property to compete with my client's place. So I sold their place, went down to Florida, came back and listed it like the day I got back, and I mean I still think we did fine. Like we bought it for $205 and we sold it for $615.
That's great.
Commissions in because
like
the person that bought it was
didn't renovate it. Didn't have to renovate it.
We renovated it. So we renovated when we bought it, and by renovate I mean like we put in vinyl floors.
Okay, yeah.
And did a few other little like touch ups and paint and stuff like that.
I was going to make that point because I think the pricing was similar in London because I used to buy all the inventory that I would turn into really nice student rentals for around $200,000. It'd be like 210, 205. Whatever, those were good pricing. 220, I'm like, no, that's too much.
Yeah, right. You're so cheap. Like I was so cheap back in the day too, right? Compared to now, it's like I should have bought everything back.
Yeah.
Then.
Oh man, well, the hindsight's like 2020 for sure.
Yeah.
So I was put off once we got into the high 200s, and I'm like, okay, no, I'm gonna hang out for a while until these numbers make sense. I'm like, I don't want to go into $500,000 of debt on something. That seems like a lot of exposure.
Yeah.
So I really took a chill for a while and didn't really make too hard of an effort to add more properties.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is that where we need to head back? Because it didn't really, not until like 2017 did things really start taking off from there.
Yeah.
Like London was like consistent, didn't really go up in value at all from when I started investing in 2011 to 2016, 2017. There was basically no obvious appreciation at all.
Very similar market to St. Catharines. Like what I did, I had an investor in 2015 come to me and they wanted to invest with like the group I was working with. And they got me to look, my boss at the time got me to look basically all the way around the Golden Horseshoe and find the market that I thought was ready to explode the most. And the reason I like St. Catharines or London, similar story, is that it had 2% a year appreciation, if that. So I was like, well, this is super sustainable.
Yeah.
And it gives us a long runway. I tell people a lot of times, I'm like, the worst thing that happened is like, oh, well, your net worth went up. This is great. Aren't you happy that things appreciated? It's like, no, because my whole strategy was the cash flow.
And mine
and
was the same.
I wish I had bought. I wish I had bought.
Yeah,
I could have bought 10 more, but it's like,
yeah.
they went up too fast, right?
Mine was the same. Like I really didn't like the fast appreciation. It made things too hard to predict, and it's unsustainable. I looked at it, I'm like, things can't go up at even 5% consistently.
And it brought too many people in. Like what it did was it's like, if you just got a boring investment, people don't really care about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
it made it exciting.
Yeah, it made it exciting because like, I can make $100,000 in 1 year. It's like, well, yeah, but if you time it incorrectly, you could not make that.
Lose all that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one big game at the end of the day. I mean, it's going to hurt a lot of people. What's happening, but at the end of the day, it's a game, and even those people who skin their knee and this hurts them, you can pick yourself back up and start over again. Yeah. Start over if you need to, or just adjust and re-aim and re-strategize and keep going.
The way I tell people too, like the way I like to look at real estate investing, like Risk, like the board game. Have you ever played the board game Risk?
I have, once or twice. So it's not familiar, but
the way I like explain to people like over leveraging is you can look like you're winning in the game of Risk. Yeah. And have all these properties, but you only got one guy in each property. Yeah. And I'm hanging out in Australia and I've like fortified up here and I got like 30 guys in one property. Yeah. And then the next turn when you only have one guy, then I can take over.
Just wipe it all out.
5. Yeah. And then you just regroup and you take over again. Yeah. So I think that's kind of pictures of, like, gives a good illustration of what my real estate strategy is like. Mm-hmm. Is I like to expand and then contract a little bit, make sure we're good, make sure we have enough cash to weather something like this, and then expand again, right? Yeah. Because everything works in trends. And when we were on like a 10-year tear, and everybody's saying, well, real estate never goes down.
Well, it's like the longest bull market in Canadian real estate market, I think.
In both real estate and in the stock market. Yeah. Like, it was crazy. So we were due for something. I mean, we did have the correction in 2020.
17.
Well, no, the stock market correction in 2020.
Okay, yeah. And then in 17, we had the real estate one. So I guess you can't say it was that long of a bull market, but that was such a short-lived correction.
It was a blip. And it was a blip. And it was totally correlated to the rules and regulations.
It was exactly. The rule, the stress test came in and then we're right back up.
Yeah. But that's the difference between now and then, right? Is like, I think a lot of people, especially people in like the sales industry have been saying is like, oh, this is 2017. By the time we head to fall, we'll be back into a bull market. And it's like, no,
it's not the same.
Well, because we didn't see the interest rate increases like we did then, right? Like, I think we went from, like, I speak in fixed terms because that's just what I was looking at. I was like, we went from 2.5% interest to like 3.5% interest because I mortgage that was at 3.5 or 3.25, and that seemed like high interest for people at then, right?
So tell me about the hedging, or kind of as you said, kind of contracting a little bit and repositioning yourself. Yeah. Like, what's that strategy look like for you? Or are you targeting a loan to value? What is it?
Well, I had a guy, so we built a small fund. And when I say we built, it was another guy, another mentor I had was Brad Lonsbury, and I learned a lot from him. So he put me on, I'm going to tell you a long story here.
Sure, go for it.
Like, he put me on the construction site and helped me, basically I helped everybody build the house. I was the general kind of laborer around. And basically what he wanted me to do was like, just watch what every trade does and kind of learn.
And what year was this?
This was in 2020, or so it was like when I was 23, so what was that, 2013, 2014, something like that. Okay. And just like watched the whole flip process, watched what they were doing.
That's so valuable.
Oh, it's so valuable because then it's like I know how to speak the language of an electrician or the plumber and stuff like that. And all these guys are happy they're kind of happy to talk about their craft, right? Especially when they're proud of it. So I learned a lot from that. And then through that, we went onto the real estate side, and then that's when I picked the market of St. Catharines to look at. And then we went down and I started buying some personal stuff for my wife and myself. And then he built a fund of like 20 million properties, which I helped him kind of source and find.
How did you get connected with these guys as mentors? Like, where did that start from?
So James, I was actually about to get out of real estate because I was like 6 months in. I hadn't made any sales, and I was like, because I wasn't a salesy guy. Like, I just, you know what I mean? As you can tell, I'm like not really salesy. And somebody introduced me to him and said, you guys got to sit down with him. I chatted with him. Him and I like hit it off right away, and then worked with him. And then I wanted to get more into the construction side and learn that kind of route. So then left him, and another guy I was working with knew Brad from like maybe like past life or whatever. And then he introduced me. And then I just, when somebody gives me an opportunity, I just go all in. Right. So,
nice. Well, that's the way you got to do it.
Yeah.
What year did you get married in?
Last year.
Last year, okay.
Yeah, we were supposed to get married in 2020, April 14th, 2020.
Oh yeah.
Got back from my bachelor party and then locked out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my wife and I were picking between 19 and 20.
Yeah.
And we just said, okay, well, we got engaged in 18. So I'm like, I don't want to do this for 2 years. I don't want to do all the planning and everything. We're going to do it as soon as possible.
We slow played it too. So I should have gone faster.
And man, we look back, we're like, holy crap, what a great decision we made.
Oh yeah. No, it was crazy because like 2 weeks before our wedding, it was like, how many people you can have? It's like, you can have 10. It's like, that's my mom and my dad and us and like my sisters.
Yeah.
Like it made no sense, right?
Yeah.
So
how long have you been with your wife?
13 years.
Okay, so since way back then.
Basically since we were like,
you guys were investing back then as well together?
Well, we met in university. So we met first year university together and then got through that. And then she knew I wanted to get into real estate. So in my last year of university, I got into real estate. Yeah. And then she's just been super supportive. You know what I mean? So.
Okay. What's she do?
She's an actress.
Actress?
So, okay. Yeah, so we built this on like a very like grassroots budget. Like none of us had corporate jobs. Like I had a sales job, but an inconsistent income. She's in acting.
Well, what sales were you in
before? Well, no, I was
just as a real estate. Okay.
Like that, but in real estate.
So you were straight out of university into realtor?
Yeah.
What'd you study in university?
Theater production and set design and management.
So that's where you met.
Yeah, right. So that's where we met. And like it's a lot of what I didn't realize at the time was I was like, oh, I should have taken business or whatever. Like, when I first got out. But then what I realized now is that like a lot of the things I learned in theater production and management, stuff like that, was how to manage people. It's transferable. Yeah. And then how to keep a budget, but not only keep a budget, like in theater, you have to build sets with like nothing, like no budget. Yeah. So it was like when we first did our first flip, it's like, how can I do this quality, but on a budget, on an IKEA budget, but like make it look like it's great now. Right. So,
and doing a lot of the work yourself is probably that's where that comes in. So. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing I'd say right now that I'm looking to change. And I'm doing it on this project I'm working on right now is that we're subbing out a lot of the work because you got to kind of realize at a certain point, like you're worth like it doesn't make sense for me to do like a $20 an hour task versus, you know what I mean? Like if tiling is going to save me like $1,000 for the bathroom, okay, I can do the tiling because I enjoy the tiling. I enjoy laying the floor.
Yeah, if you like doing drywall. If you like doing something, I think it's what it comes down to. I mean, I will gently shame people who do jobs they don't like that are low paid jobs because I mean, there's just no point. Like, but if it's peace to you, like some people love cutting the grass because it's like you just get to zen out. Like,
have you met my neighbor? He cuts it twice a week. It's like,
probably just it's like peaceful time to him, right? So I think that makes sense. But if you don't like it, find a way to delegate it. For me, like hardest lesson, like I have to learn it. Like I do it in my daily life, and I'm getting better at that out of necessity. I had to, but it's amazing how much better I feel when I just delegate the stuff that I don't like doing.
100%.
I just feel so much better on it daily.
Well, yeah, and then you can you're not stressed because you're running to 3 other things at the same time, right?
And if you don't like doing something, you're gonna do it bad. Like you're going to rush through it, try and get it off, or you're going to procrastinate. None of those scenarios are good. So do the things you like doing. Don't do the things you don't like doing. Find a way to delegate. Yeah. Biggest thing I think I've ever learned.
Well, and you can cost yourself more money too, right? Because if you make the mistake, then you got to take it apart. It's like time and all this effort, right? So
I do just miss like working with my hands and like building stuff. Like I like, framing up a wall or whatever, and feel like I never get to do it. Yeah. But I'm like, in what financial scenario would that ever make sense for me to take time away from everything I got going on? Yeah, 100%. But with the new house, like, just get to build some shelves and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's kind of like what I want to do. Yeah.
Well, it's a feeling of satisfaction, right? Because you're like, I did that. I built that.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's why I love tiling, because it comes out with like beautiful lines and stuff like that.
You get to be proud of what you did. And I always had that with any property I finished, even if I didn't do the work. I'm like, you know what? The vision was here. I made it all happen. So yeah. So what's this current one you're working on? Maybe we can run through some numbers.
Yeah. So the current one we're working on,
like, what is it? Where is it?
It was a single family home in downtown St. Catharines. We bought in the end of 2019, going into 2020. We closed March 2020, right before everything started. We actually didn't rent it for like 2 months because I was like, oh, we're gonna get shit rents and we're gonna it's because we thought, with the pandemic and stuff like that, we're like, nobody's gonna want to rent, and like it was weird and all that stuff. So then we ended up renting it out in May full well knowing we're just renting it to a person while we apply for permits and all this stuff, right? So because the basement needed to get fully redone, the whole plan was from the beginning was we're going to underpin the basement.
You're going to duplex it?
We're going to duplex it, put an auxiliary unit. So that's what we're midway through now.
So you are duplexing it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So. What'd you buy it for?
I got it for $305.
So those prices didn't exist even in like 2021. Like you would have that
even
same place
in 2020. Like we got a steal, right? Like this is why I tell people, like I'm like, keep looking for properties right now.
Yeah.
Because you might find the right deal at the right time.
Right. Well, especially now, you could probably find something because you're going to find a seller who needs to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you going to spend on construction on that one?
Somewhere in the realm of like 200 to 250.
That's not on an actor's budget.
Not anymore. No, yeah. We've graduated a bit to a bigger budget and stuff like that.
Okay, so you're like 550 in.
Yeah.
What's the value of that when you're done?
It's always hard. I like to, for my own sake, I like to like
be
undervalue
conservative.
everything.
Yeah. Well, especially with things coming down.
Yeah. So I'd say like in 6 months, 600,000 to 650, somewhere in the realm there. But this isn't a flip, right? Like this is a.
Well, no, it's a BRRRR, right? Are you going to refi or no?
Nope.
No,
we're going to refi, and we have a mortgage until 2025.
So the 250 that you put in, was that money that you had pulled out of another property?
Yeah. So this is why we sold the one in March. So this is what I'm talking about, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, like
just so you're not leveraging too much.
Yeah. So what we did was is we took the 400 grand we got, right? We paid off. We put 100 grand for taxes.
Yeah.
And then we paid off a loan we had from my parents for another deal we did. And then we put the rest aside for the budget.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one, let's just say hypothetically, you think, 600 is the value at the end. I just want to get an idea like what your cap rate is, and we'll run through some expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what do you think, first off, what's your rent going to be on that place when it's done?
Rent's going to be $2,200 upstairs minimum, and $1,400 downstairs.
That low?
I think we could get more, but again,
I say 1,400.
I run the numbers low.
Yeah.
And then
that's super low. Okay,
yeah. Like we would probably get like 16.
Yeah.
But
okay, well we can play with that, but I get like wanting to make it work and not wanting to get it, latched onto something that's not going to happen.
Well, and this is the thing too, right? Like because when we do a conservative, every extra dollar we get is like huge bonus.
Great.
Everyth's cash flow on top of that, right? So
perfect. Yeah. So tax wise, what are you going to pay, do you think, after they reassess your taxes?
Probably like 3,500.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't think too much.
So after 3 years, City of London sent me a special tax bill for the last 3 years, $1,800 a year. They want me to pay all by the end of the year. They sent me the notices in like September.
That's crazy.
Before the end of the year, pay us $8,000 in back taxes for the last 3 years.
Brutal.
You guys are really cool.
Oh, and you had already sold the properties too.
No, I still had it.
Oh, you still? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I thought they were coming back to you after the fact.
No,
like,
that's not how that works, man. The new owner really wouldn't like that.
Right? Yeah, like imagine.
Oh man,
terrible.
That actually happened on one of the properties I saw. It got reassessed after I'd sold it because they still accidentally sent me the bill. I just paid it. I'm like, I don't want them getting that. I don't want them getting that bill.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so insurance. What do you think you'll pay on that?
Probably a little bit of a premium because we did have an insurance claim right before the reno, which was like not intentional. Just like
you think it'd be like a $2,500 a year or something?
Yeah, probably about $2,500. Yeah.
Okay. And maintenance wise, what do you typically budget?
Maintenance, I normally budget like 2,000 to 3,000 generally on average. Okay. In this case for this property, like because everything's literally new, like we took the boiler system out, we're putting a new HVAC AC system in, new electrical.
One for the whole building though?
One for the whole building, just for the HVAC. Mm-hmm. Proving to be a bit of a pain in the ass, but there's no room to put the other. Like I didn't want to. You didn't have it.
Space upstairs. You can put it in an attic, but that's hard
I didn't want to sacrifice the space. So we're putting fire dampeners and fireproofing.
See, all that stuff just sounds like something I don't want to do.
Yeah.
I've never actually done an up-down duplex conversion. I mean, that'd be a cool experiment. For me, I never really fell in love with the numbers for the work that goes into it.
Yeah.
But Not that they aren't great. I actually kind of would love that experience just to kind of go through all the headaches.
Well, and that's part of it too, right? Like the whole part of this is like, while we're in this age group, like right now, it's like, this is where I can make the mistakes and take the time to like really learn these things. And then that way I can like, I've been testing out different things, right? I was telling you, we're Airbnb our basement unit of our personal house, because it's like, I want to have all these experiences, and this way I can help my clients better, and you learn a lot more.
You learn so much by just doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Like just moving forward on things like the campground, we didn't know how good or bad it would turn out. Like we had some good vibes about it, but we did it because we're like, well, it can't sit around forever. We got to do stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't love the market, didn't like the way things were going crazy, but I thought that was a good value compared to a lot of things on the market. And,
no, for sure.
And, same thing with Florida. There's not that these things don't ever make me nervous, but sometimes you got to move forward too, but do it with a common sense approach that you can make sense of.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's keep going on this before we move on. Are you going to pass the utilities back onto the tenants there?
Hydro, yes. Gas, no, because we're going to do
gas, no, because it's central. So,
but again, right, because we're putting in high efficiency stuff, I'm just going to charge higher rents. So we're like, realistically, we're probably going to push those rents I mentioned to you, like $200 or $300 more, and see what we can get. But yeah, we're going to push pass on the hydro to them.
Okay.
But water didn't really make sense for me to.
Do you think you're probably going to end up being at about like what, $250 a month on average for the year between water and gas?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Okay, so that's like $3,000 a year for those two, and then electric the tenants pay. Okay, and oops, wrong one. $3,000 and management.
We self-manage for the most part.
Yeah. So I just put in 1% when people self-manage. Just covers like whatever software you might use or whatever you might need. Okay, so landscaping, tenants are doing that? We're
going to make everything, like where the backyard's pretty landscape free. So it's got a couple raised beds for like gardens and flowers like that. Everything else is
and snow removal. The tenants will do.
Yeah, exactly. Tenants will do.
Is that? I mean, I have my tenants do it, but I've heard people say that you're not supposed to do that. Have the tenants do it.
I mean,
and most people do it. Most landlords, I think.
And this is the thing too, right? Like if it's a really bad day, like if it's like 30 centimeters of snow, I'll call somebody up and get them to do it for them, right? But if it's just like a dusting, like 2 inches, it's like I'm out there shoveling my driveway. And I think most people are okay with it. What I've found is that like the more rent you pay or the higher end the place, the more people expect that to be covered.
Yeah,
right? Which is fine. If you're charging a premium, then it makes sense, right? But most all my other triplexes, like I have a triplex and I have a duplex in Chippewa, and the tenants are totally fine to do it.
Where's Chippewa?
Chippewa's just outside of Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay.
It's like Marineland, and then you keep driving past Marineland, and then you're in Chippewa. This like little, like kind of beach village that's got like on Niagara Park, like on the Niagara River. And then it's got the I forget which river comes up it. Like I think it's the Welland River. Comes into the city. It's actually really nice.
Yeah, you know what? I love that area down there. It's like a little hidden gem.
It's quiet.
I really like that drive between Niagara Falls and Niagara on the Lake. Love going along the river there.
Oh yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I usually throw in a $500 miscellaneous. We'll throw $0 for landscaping. You're obviously doing this on a real budget.
Yeah,
I mean, like your mortgage is what? How much is your mortgage
right now for it?
Yeah,
like $1,300, $1,350.
No, but the principal amount.
Oh, $290.
$290.
Yeah, we got that was the other thing too. Like we got really creative with the financing, right? So like some of these places we moved into.
Yeah, so you got some good bank lending. I mean, basically, no matter how you look at this, so if you're $1,300 mortgage, your cash flow or your operating income on a monthly before mortgage, let's just see what that is, divided by 12, you're $2,500 a month before your mortgage. Yeah. So if your mortgage is only $1,300, you got $1,300 in cash. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's nice. Are all your properties like sort of in that ballpark?
Yeah, like that. That's what we're trying to get them to. So like, the triplex is about $1,000. The duplex we just bought, we paid a little bit more for that because it's got a side yard. So that like the house is situated right here, and we have another 35 feet on the other side of it. So the goal long term is wait until density increases in Chippewa, because they're doing big developments.
Yeah,
so
and then you'll
the density is going to increase, and then go, hey,
Yeah.
you did it over there. Give me the severance for this,
Mhm.
and then what we're going to do is we're going to put a triplex on, or whatever
Beautiful.
they'll
Yeah,
allow
whatever you
for
can
us,
get
like a
done.
duplex or triplex.
Have you done some of that development type stuff so far? I guess
No, I'm not.
You have sort of apprenticed under some good mentors though.
Yeah, exactly. And we have contacts now that like we're reaching out to and to learn it. And, a lot of people are like, oh, you won't be able to do that for 10 years. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not
the
in
duplex pays for everything.
Yeah.
And then in 10 years when I get the chance, then I'll sever it. When
Nice.
And
I love that long-term strategy. And I guess these places work really well for families. You don't this is probably the most rentable product you can get, right? Like it's a very affordable price point.
Yeah.
Like that's where I want to be with my portfolio. I want to own stuff that's like a very affordable price point, but I'm the best in that category. Like my stuff's nice when other people are renting really crap to that demographic.
Like we do the same like for everything. So we try to go 2-bedroom minimum unless the basement apartment it's a 1-bedroom, but it's going to be top of the line 1-bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
The appliances are going to be stainless steel. Like stuff's going to look nice, but we're gonna and that's again like we're happy to charge a slightly under market rate for a better tenant.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've learned like at the beginning I was like, oh, I just want to get the highest rent. It doesn't matter. And now it's like owning them and especially managing them myself. It's like I don't want a tenant that's going to be a pain. If they think they're getting a bit of a deal from me, they're going to do things like they're going to shovel the driveway, they're going to cut the grass and stuff like that because they feel like we're in a we have each other's backs a bit, right? And a good relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important to just treat your tenants really well. Like it is hard when you go after the absolute most dollars because then you tend to get people who are stretching themselves and then they create problems for you.
But this is the same thing though. I'd say in the last 2 years, like, a lot of people that were investing had to go for the top dollar.
Had to.
Because their numbers were break even.
Yeah. Well, people are forcing it.
Right.
And I get it. It's FOMO. Like nobody wants to just sit on the sidelines. Like you want to be doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But so many people, and this is not a new thing, force the numbers to work.
Yeah.
That's a normal thing that so many people do. Shouldn't be normal, but it is.
Wishful thinking is like one of the worst things you can do for yourself, right?
Well, and justifying, like
fun.
rationalizing why it's okay to not take cash flow. Well, as long as we break even, you break even now, but what if interest rates go up? Like no one was really talking about that. Like that was not really a conversation for the longest time. I always said I want to have a good buffer. I never said it was specifically for that. Yeah. But we were just all so used to the 2-3% interest rates. And
I think it caught people, and like this is the market that you go like, how did people lose, or like how do you lose your house? It's like this is how you lose your house, right? Like over leverage yourself. Like the other thing that was like scary is I was reading an article, and this guy's like, like I refinanced my house and I bought a 16-unit building, and then I bought a 6-unit building, and then I brought friends and family in to buy a 16-unit building, and then I brought 4 pre-constructions, and it's like. Well, the thing that people don't understand with pre-construction condos is like if you bought them and they're closing in 2022, 2023, or 2024.
Now you got to qualify for the mortgage then. Yeah, that's the thing. Because
they won't qualify
you. They won't qualify you and lock in your rate 3 years early, 2 years early.
And when do they do the appraisal? They do the appraisal
when it's
right
coming.
before you close.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a mortgage on this house. Like if you paid $800,000 and they go, oh, we're valuing it at $700,000. It's like, sorry, dude. Like
that's scary stuff, man.
Yeah.
What is your plan then? Like, how are you going to scale from here? Do you have an immediate plan to scale, or are you just kind of status quo? Like, what's the thought?
No, so I mean, we've mainly been doing long-term rentals, and then so the reason we did our like renovating my basement and turning that into an Airbnb.
That's where you live.
Wasn't by mistake.
And that's in St. Catharines.
Yeah, and that's in St. Catharines.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about that one real quick.
Yeah. So speaking of like doing like providing luxury on a smaller scale or cheaper scale, looking at everything on Airbnb and things are like $500 a night, $1,000 a night.
Yeah.
Right. Ours is a 2-bedroom with a kitchenette, breakfast provided, and fully renovated, and we charge $200 to $250 a night. So it allows people to have a cheap stay.
Yeah.
But that's not crappy by any means.
But you can still lease this on Airbnb. You just have to provide breakfast.
Exactly. So we still provide breakfast because ours is technically a B&B, right?
Yeah. So you're allowed. This is a bylaw.
Yeah, exactly. So it's allowed because we have lots of parking and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I like to test everything on a small scale first. Mm-hmm. So what we're finding is like, okay, this is really profitable for us. We're able to pay basically our mortgage every month with the money that's made from the B&B. So, and I try to live for free with everything, right? Like we never made a lot of money, and like we made some decent years, like decent money and stuff like that. But it's like it's always been, how can we get our time back, and how can we replace every single thing that we want in our financial life with an asset, right? So that's why we did the Airbnb in the basement, one, and then two, we did it because we wanted to see and do kind of like a case study. How do Airbnbs work? How profitable are they? How much of a pain in the butt is it to get the licensing for the area, right? Like, so we were chatting about this earlier. It's like, how are people doing arbitrage on 30 properties in a market like St. Catharines where you can only get licensing for your permanent residence? Are you doing it under the table? And that's the thing too.
But have things changed? Like, how recently did those laws change?
Well, those laws just changed pretty much this year, like maybe 3 or 4 months ago. But here's the thing, that like you have to also look at your business models. Like you have to look at the interest. So interest rates, right? Is my cost of money going to go up? Are my cost of expenses going to go up? Is this property that I'm in, is this strategy going to get regulated out?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's something people need to think about. Like, a lot of people went all in on this Airbnb arbitrage thing, or on just Airbnb in general. And that was their plan A, when, if you're planning to play by the legalities, then they could just shut you down. Like, they have the power to just shut you down.
Yeah. Well, and what I've kind of learned, and we used to rent out stuff, and it's like, oh, it's fine. Doesn't need to be legal or whatever. Yeah. Because the numbers work, and it's what are the chances somebody's going to look into it? And then I started hearing stories of basement apartments that weren't legally done getting shut down because there's a spat with the tenant.
Depends on
the city and stuff like that.
Depends on the municipality. Like, if they did that in Hamilton, it's like half their rental inventory is illegal.
No, exactly right. But it's just for me, it's I'll try basically not to do those things anymore because I don't want to get caught.
It's not so much about not getting caught. It's just, if you do, like, what do you have invested into that? Like, I would never base my financial decision on needing something illegal to work.
And that's exactly right.
If it's there, it's like, hey, that's bonus cash flow from that extra bedroom that's not legal.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna make that my basis for a decision when it's not for sure gonna last.
Yeah. So what we're gonna be looking at now is, we're gonna start looking at Airbnbs. We're gonna really research the market to make sure that they're friendly to Airbnbs. And then also, when we run our numbers, does it work as an Airbnb, and does it work as a long-term rental?
This is where the US is, like, for Airbnb, I've heard it like from so many people, it's like, it's way easier. The municipalities are much less likely to come down on them. Yeah. For now, I mean, anything could change, but
a lot of the rules, it depends on the state though, right? Like, that's the other thing too. So that's what we're starting to look at. We're also starting to look in the States because the deals seem a bit better down there. And
for like Airbnb or for regular rental?
No, just in general.
Any specific states you're looking at?
New York State, from the perspective of it being close, right?
Yeah, that's
just
great.
Across the border, we're gonna look there.
Perfect.
And then Arizona, Arkansas, and stuff like that, if we're thinking further away, just because the rules are pretty attractive down there.
Did you check out the Andre Makovicek episode on my podcast?
No, not yet.
He's in New York State.
Oh, no, I did. No, sorry, I did, because I actually called him.
Okay, I'm hoping, I'm saying his name right. Sorry if I didn't.
Yeah.
If he's listening, which he's probably not.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Andre's like, he does a lot of the stuff in across borders, and was buying like 6plexes and 8plexes and stuff like that.
He did like a 30 unit.
Yeah.
In trying to think of the name of the town. It's escaping me. But he was very random about picking it. It was just like threw a dart, saw a couple of good deals. Okay, here we're going here. And the numbers work well. And New York State is actually I think a lot of people think New York City, but that's an entirely different animal. Yeah. New York State, New York City function quite differently. Yeah. Not that I know that much about it. It's just like, from the stories I hear.
Yeah. Well, and for us, we're being very thoughtful about where we pick next, because when we pick it, we're going to go deep, right? Like, it's like, if we pick this city, we're going to buy like 5 or 6 places there, because I don't want to have one place here, one place there.
No.
It just becomes a management
which
nightmare,
is what I did with Cape Coral. Like, I went and bought 10 lots. Like, I wasn't messing around. Like, I wanted to get moving. Now looking at the cash flow, I'll probably sell a couple of those lots off, just because money's so expensive. I'd rather just sit on more money and borrow less in the meantime.
Well, and that's what I've been telling people too. It's like, what's your strategy right now? It's like literally doing everything we can to stack cash.
Yeah.
Like, just
stacking cash right now is a great idea. Like, it's not like the market's collapsed. Like, for me, like, this isn't advice, but to me, like, I think that's That's
we
pretty
got
much
room
exactly
to go.
what I want to do. We got room.
And there will be more opportunities too, right?
There will be more opportunities. That's what I'm thinking. Like, it's
Yeah.
a declining market. Who knows for how long? Like, look at Japan. It's been a declining market for forever. Like,
Yeah.
and like since '85.
Yeah.
And don't quote me on that. I haven't looked at the chart lately, but it's been declining a long time.
Yeah.
So like, if you think about markets like that, this could do that. Like, no one knows for sure.
Yeah.
We're in stagflation, right? Like, we have, our economy's shrinking and our dollar's inflating, and that's not a good place to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing too is like, I never have seen so many people look so rich in 2021. Like, everybody had money. Everybody was like, everybody was showing off like, yeah, I made this return or this return. And it's like, okay, but how many people of those held? Because the thing is too, right? Like, a lot of people were talking about returns they had that were still sitting in their trading account.
Yeah.
That they lost too, right? So like, a lot of people I think had this false sense of security where it's like everything was hot. Everything was going up.
It's a lot more quiet on the trading
and
front
2022
lately, right?
now, it's like a lot of those gurus and stuff like that were like, this is how we make all this money. It's like,
yeah, you don't
where'd
hear
you
it as
disappear
much.
to?
Don't hear it as much. Yeah.
What happened, right? So
it's too bad. It really is. Like, what's happening in the stock market, what's happening here. It's just so unnecessary and so government caused. It's frustrating. I feel bad for everyone it's affecting.
Well, I'd say part of it's definitely government caused, and part of it is greed caused. Like, it's human emotion, right? Like, a lot of people, I think, to me, like, that guy I was telling you about that bought the 4 and like this, and like, he bought the 6-unit, 16-unit, and the 4 pre-construction. It's like, why are you in such a rush to retire? Like, I've chatted with a couple of people, like, I want to be retired by 40. It's like, well, you're starting at 36. How does that make sense? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to retire at like 40, 45. We started at 22.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you gotta, like, real estate's should be like a boring, slow asset. And that's why not many people liked it at the beginning. And then all of a sudden
it got exciting.
It got exciting because the numbers went crazy, right?
It's true, man. I don't disagree. Yeah. I think that way too many people got into the sexiness of it because everybody was looking like a genius.
And let me tell you, like, doing some renos when you're like neck deep and you go, oh, this isn't as sexy as you really got to love it. Like, that's the thing that got me through a lot of it. Like, it's like sometimes it's like, it's like the other day, it's like my whole layout changed in the basement because the walls came in a bit when we reported it. And it's like, you got to redo the whole layout. And you're just like,
I love it when I've got help. I love creating. I love problem solving, like structural stuff. Like, oh, we got to rejig this. This beam's in the way. We gotta flush mount it. Yeah. Point load it, or throw in a couple of columns. And these things I find that just fascinating. Like, okay, we got to solve this and make sure we can still walk through and we don't compromise this.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of any of the projects. And then, of course, seeing the end of it, like seeing the end product.
The reason I think for me too is like when we work on these projects ourselves too, it's like seeing the end of it too is so rewarding because it was like you went to war, like you battled this house, and this, like, especially this one, because this one actually had a whole flood. So like what happened was the tenant canceled the hydro while she was still living there. Yeah, and then for some reason, the power went out and everything froze. Oh, okay. And then I came into a house that was burst, but she was still like living there, but she was gone for the weekend.
So this happened while your tenant
was living there.
Okay, so you bought the place, had one tenant you put in, tenant in it, and was that an insurance claim?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys got some money out of that. So
we
timed well with the renovation.
Yeah, which was like not intentional by any means. It was honestly more of a pain in the butt because it's like, oh my god, we got to deal with all this crap, and like, I mean, like, there's like 6 inches of water in the basement that you're dealing with, and it was like, it was rough. It was a rough few. And the insurance company was like, we're not paying out. And then they called me back 2 hours later and went out, oh, sorry, we had it logged in our system as the incorrect, like it was incorrectly labeled in our system, and it had you as a commercial policy. It's like, well, because originally they're like,
so you did have flood coverage with the deductible, right?
Yeah. No, totally. Like I had the coverage, but they missed
like what was the damage? Like, what were your damages?
So
like in dollar value.
Yeah. So they said $64,000 worth with repairs and everything like that.
That's sweet to have put that towards your renovation.
Yeah. So the buyout was like about 55 after everything
deductible and stuff.
Yeah, after the deductible. So but then the other nice part is because I get rental coverage on mine. So you pay a little premium for certain things, but it pays off, right? So it's like, maybe it's like $150 premium a year for rental coverage, but now for the 6 months that I'm doing the reno, I'm getting basically my mortgage paid for.
Yeah.
which is perfect.
That's sweet.
Right?
Yeah, that worked out really well.
Yeah. So, but it was like dark days there in January.
Don't anybody
when
get any ideas.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Yeah, I know. It's one of those things where like it worked out. The timing seems a little like too good to be true, but it was just like one of those things that like, you know, my friends have this saying, they say like, it's like nothing bad ever happens to Cory. It's because it's like bad things happen to me. I just don't let them.
Yeah.
I either have the right coverage or I figure out solutions, because it's like, I'm not going to stop with a problem. I'm going to figure it out and then get through it.
So keep moving forward. Yeah. So is so that's why kind of the US is your next thought, because the numbers make more sense. No, numbers around here don't look so great right now.
No. And I mean, like, listen, like I want to buy more in Niagara, but
until the prices make sense. Yeah.
And the thing is, there's a psychology to it too, right? Like the sellers haven't realized that they know they've made a mistake, but don't want to admit. It takes time for
the prices to come down.
Yeah. Like don't be like, I just still deserve March prices. And it's like, well, no. It's
not going to work anymore.
Like look how much money, or what the monthly cost is on a $700,000 property at 1.5% compared to, 4.5% as like on a variable rate. It's like
it's changed, unfortunately.
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah.
And you just don't have as many buyers in that pool.
Exactly. Yeah, right? It's just going to have an effect, and it takes some time. So one thing I'm sure of is there's a lot of money to be made in the next 12 months, 24 months.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how we position ourselves and prepare ourselves. Stacking cash to me makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're positioning yourself well to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too with real estate, like that I like learned a long time ago, was like you make the money on the buy.
Yeah.
Like
it's true.
You technically harvest the money on the sale, but like you make the money on the purchase. So you really have to. There's a lot of renos you can do to improve it, but like really,
but that's all the sweat.
Down.
Yeah, it's getting the number at the front, and this is why, like when I say there's money to be made, it's going to be having a discerning eye at the market, spotting a deal that seems to have slipped through the cracks.
Yeah,
those are the ones I think where a lot of people could make a lot of money right now.
Yeah,
because there's going to be people who have listed their property in a bad way, wrong board or whatever, and their pictures suck, and they priced it incorrectly, and they're just about to do a price drop, and you get to them right before it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're willing to take a number that no one thought they would take. So those type of situations do happen.
Yeah, 100%.
And for the people who know their market and have been paying attention and have seen how long properties have been listed, they're the ones that'll pick those up.
Yeah, for sure.
So as long as we keep our eyes out.
Yeah.
Cory, where do people find you, follow you, reach you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Cory Matthews Realtor.
Okay.
And mainly on Instagram, I've been pretty quiet with like how much I do, like in the public eye. So, but we've been starting to do more like information, like informative videos and stuff like that, because I just watched enough people and I'm like, okay, I think there needs to be a different approach and more, what I mean? Like you're great. I think what you guys do and like everything that you have here is like an amazing, honest conversation, which I think is amazing. But there's a lot of realtors out there that I've seen, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on with these posts. Like, it seems like there's a different.
It's the hardest
motive,
thing,
right?
Because, like, no matter what, like, I talk about wanting to monetize this podcast, but I don't want to ever be in a position where I would feel compelled to say something I didn't truly believe. So I've just resolved that no matter what, it doesn't matter to me. Like that's why I haven't monetized it to this point.
Yeah,
I just want to be able to speak my mind.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean there isn't a way to do it, but I think everybody like. And some of these realtors, it's like it's about that check.
Yeah,
it can't be that way.
Well, and the other thing is that, like in their defense, because I think this is the other thing that people don't realize is like they have a mortgage. Their mortgage costs went up.
Yeah, exactly.
They have a really nice car.
And
that has a car payment.
And need is a stinky cologne as a realtor. Like you can't be needing that deal. So,
exactly.
So anyone in that position, like find a way to work through so that you don't have to do that.
Yeah. And this is why we were always focused on buying real estate, because I always wanted to be in a position where I didn't necessarily I didn't need the commission check immediately to pay for my life. Like it's nice because it helps basically most of the commission I make helps me invest and buy more real estate, which then allows me to become, because here's the thing, like I give people advice and they're like, why are you telling me not to buy this? And it's like, because Like, basically, I'm going to tell you not to buy the property until we find the right property. That's
Yeah.
right?
Because you're going to come back to me and you're going to say, why'd you sell me this property? And it won't let you sleep at night, right? Like
Exactly.
I mean, I look at it that way. Like, why would you want to? I'll just say it like it is.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't buy this, or here's who I think that deal works for.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's you.
Yeah. No, exactly. Right.
You know, like I think that, for instance, the Toronto speculation did make sense for people where that was maybe like 1/100th of their portfolio or 1/10th. Like you can afford to have cash losers and not even pay attention to them because you got a whole bunch of cash winners over somewhere else.
Well, especially too, like if you make like, so for somebody that's like in Toronto making $300,000 a year, right? They actually like kind of need a tax loss. So they buy a condo that's appreciating, which is great.
Yeah, but, and then they write off the negative cash flow.
Exactly.
And they're building appreciation in it. And I've spoken and had that exact conversation with people. Like people, they don't want the cash flow.
Yeah.
So makes perfect sense. They're just going to pay 55% of that over to the government. So why not just have cash loss?
Exactly. So for some people like that, and that's where it gets like funny because people are like, oh, why would you want a cash loss? But it's like, it makes sense for the right person in the right scenario.
Right. So that's where you really have to, I think it's like about looking at a deal and saying, who does this deal work for? Like it's not going to work for everything. Or at what price would this deal work for client A or client B?
And that's it too, right? What price?
It's not that it does or doesn't. Yeah. There's a number that it does or doesn't.
It was the same thing. It's like when stuff comes up in inspections and it goes, you know, this is going to cost me. Like, it's like, I always got people to, it's like, let's get the number value on what the problem is in the inspection. Yeah. How much is that going to cost to fix? Yeah. Is that going to kill the deal? Yeah. Right. If we can get that price reduced by that amount, is that going to make you feel better about it? Yeah. And most of the time, the seller is willing to reduce the price if it's a super glaring issue. That's obvious,
if it's obvious. Yeah. As long as you can prove it, I think that they are willing.
Yeah.
So you're mostly houses that you're selling, or are you doing apartment buildings still?
No, like mostly houses. And I help buyers. I love helping buyers.
Like homeowners?
Homeowners, yeah. Homeowners and investors. But the reason I like buyers the best is because
they're excited to buy a property.
Well, no, like one, you get to give people great advice and they don't pay you. You're getting paid by the seller side. So that's not a conversation. And two, when you're listing a house, you only have that house to sell. Yeah. You have to make be like, yeah, this is the greatest house ever. You should buy this house. But when you're helping buyers, it's like, this house is garbage. This house is garbage. This is the one. Let's go after this one. Yeah. Right. And
it could be fun. Yeah.
I think for me, like it becomes more, you have like better value there.
Cool. Yeah. That's an interesting point of view. And I can see where you're coming from. Any closing comments, final thoughts?
No, my main comment would be just for everybody to kind of like remain patient, keep looking, like don't get, don't just completely
get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged, but keep looking, but just with the thought of having a lot of patience and finding the right deal.
Because it's coming. Yeah. Find those fundamentals. Yeah. And just wait for that deal. But most of them, be active. You got to be active in order to be able to spot the deal.
Well, exactly. It's like, you can't be sitting at home watching TV and wondering why you're not finding anything.
Yeah. You got to be analyzing deal after deal. And
exactly.
And then, okay, so this is what I need. These type of deals don't work. Here's the approximate, square footage I need and the approximate price that I need for a deal to work. You've already pre-crunched those numbers. Yeah. So now all of a sudden the deal comes up. Okay, that's the one.
And check out different cities. Check out different asset classes. Like,
sure.
Like the other thing we're going to start looking into is like commercial and self-storage and things like that. Right. So.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, man. Okay, well, we'll have to save that for episode 2. But it's great talking to you. I appreciate you coming over, and awesome. It's great to have an in-depth conversation with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you on the next one. Real estate values and interest rates are changing quickly, and huge opportunities are opening up in the marketplace. But to take advantage of those opportunities, you're going to need real estate experts on your team. That's why I've brought my first sponsor on the show, Jacob Campanaro with Royal LePage Signature. Jacob is an expert commercial multifamily realtor, and he's also the resident realtor on my new deal analysis show, REI Hot Seat, which is available on YouTube. If you're looking to add a quality piece to your real estate power team, Jacob and his team are there to help. To book a consultation with a member of his team, fill out the form available through the link in the show notes on this episode, and a member of his team will be in touch.